Hi, welcome once again. We are back for one more interesting and an exciting episode of Celeb Talk 1.0. And here I welcome an extraordinary special personality, Mr. David Powell. Welcome, Mr. David Powell, to the show. And every time, as we promise that we'll be back with some special personalities who can be really the game changer for our life. And what more, you guess we have got a magician who can really be a change leader, who can really transform you, who can really help you fulfill your dreams into reality. So we would definitely know more about our special guest, Mr. David Powell, who is all the way from Sydney, Australia. We would definitely like to know more about him through our discussion. But before that, I would really take the privilege and the honor to introduce him. He's an international mentor, author, and executive facilitator. His passion lies in empowering people to achieve the success they seek at work and in life. David is the founder of global education and media company, The Golden Thread, providing online programs that provide the essential work and life skills, perhaps which we never learn in the university or school, and which help us to thrive in the life and in our career. Born in UK, David gained a first-class honors degree in chemical engineering. And he has basically done it from Edinburgh University, and he has worked all his life in resources and IT for a long 24 years. Of course, he has led so many successful teams during that period. And down the line, he realized that his passion lies in helping and empowering people. And that really was his true calling, to become a full-time trainer in business skills, facilitator, and as well as mentor. Over the period of 3 decades, David has been helping individuals in building the teams, understanding the skills what are required to help organizations to excel and propel towards the direction of success. He has worked 30 countries and 5 continents to improve their business and performance of people and help people achieve the results for that success. After finishing his university, David spent a year driving a Land Rover overland from the UK to Australia and became fascinated with the different belief systems, religions, and cultures that he encountered. These travels were the genesis for his lifelong research into history, religion, Gnostic, wisdom, and psychology to discover how to best empower people at work and in life. The result is his unique ability to synthesize the latest scientific thinking and the ancient wisdom that sits behind all religions to address and inspire the whole person, or I can say holistic person, that is body, mind, emotions, and into the deeper inner being. So, of course, we meet the special personality, Mr. David Powell, who is a mix of science, spirituality, and emotions. So we'll be definitely digging deeper into this subject today. And I really welcome our special guest, who actually believes that humor, energy, passion are the wealth of his personal experience. So let us get into this fascinating journey of today's podcast. Welcome, Mr. David Powell, for this wonderful Celeb Talk 1.0. And I'm sure our audience are excited today to know more about leadership. So I welcome you on behalf of Positive Mental Attitude, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, sir, if you could just tell us before I get into my main questions, which basically I have already thought for, tell us a little bit about your journey as a leader and how do you really got fascinated with the subject, that how you can really help people become like you and how you can replicate that success story again and again, and how exactly this thing started.
Yes, good questions. I guess, like all of us, I went to school, I went to university, and I got jobs. And it dawned on me in those early years of working in organizations that whatever I'd learned about at school, university, no one had really taught me about what I call the game of business. And so I started to learn. I guess I started to learn about business. And of course, it doesn't take long to realize you need to also learn about yourself and other people. And then if you're in a large organization, you need to work on teams. And to be honest, it took me a long time to build up these understandings and skill sets. And then, of course, when I got into general management, I had large teams of people who had to perform. And twice I had groups of, I don't know, 100 or 200 people. I wanted to train them so they performed better. The company didn't have any training budget. So I just decided as general manager, I would do the training because otherwise it wouldn't get done. And our people performed. And then other managers said, well, will you come and train my department? And the company goes, no, that's not your job. You're the general manager. So in the end, I quit and formed my own business. Now, I didn't know the phone would go from all over the world. So you're right. I've worked all over the world learning about the skills of leadership, management, and team.
Wonderful. So I really can find this is an impressive journey. And I'm sure like those who are listening, they're all getting inspired by this thing. So, sir, I just want to know from you that, as you rightly said, that when you did not find the solution, you created the solution yourself by taking the ownership of training people. So can you please explain us that what exactly is the essence of leadership and why do you think it is so important in a time of this disruption when we are talking about a lot of turbulence in the workplace? There is a lot of things happening in a disruptive style. And in 21st century, why exactly one should really think about the term leadership and what are the essence of leadership according to you?
Yes, that's a good question. So what I would suggest to everybody is listen to what I say in terms of my experience, and then I'll leave it with you. You think through whether it resonates with you and whether it's appropriate. Now, I often say a good starting point is to look at the origin of a word. Most of our English language comes from Latin or Greek. The word leadership comes from an old Anglo-Saxon verb, leidan, and that translates into show the way. So if you're a leader, leidan is to show the way. Where are we going? As Henry Kissinger said, the job of the leader is to take the people from where they are to where they've never been before. So there's this idea that you as the leader are showing a way into the future. Now, of course, the first question then becomes, if you're taking the people from where they are to where they've never been before, who are people? And as you said in your introduction, I see people, actually see them like 16-cylinder engines as a metaphor. Yes, we've all got a body and we have to keep the body fit. We all have a mind. The mind is powerful. And people teach us how to use the mind. They don't teach us how to stop the mind. That's another debate. Yes, we all have feelings, emotions, and I'm sure everybody listening and watching has been in places where it just felt awful. And sometimes you're in places where it feels terrific. And then that inner being, what I call the spirit, is the source of who we are, the source of our integrity, our ethics, our enthusiasm, our motivation. And so what I would start by saying, if we're going to get a handle on this, you know, got this turbulent planet, 8,000 million people, how do you get a handle on what's going on? And I would ask you to think about little kiddies, what we would call newly arrived spirit beings who've incarnated onto the planet. Before they go to school, whether you're in the Himalayas or the back streets of Liverpool or Cairo or wherever, what is it all over the world little kiddies love playing? Games. They love playing games. So I'm going to suggest to you that as adults, nothing has really changed. And the way to get a handle on what's going on out there is that everybody's playing games. The question becomes, are the games win-win? Or are the games win-lose? And you can look out there and you know that some games are definitely win-lose. So when you're showing the way as a leader, I would suggest what you're really doing is saying, hey, let's create a game that's exciting, motivating, and win-win. Does that make sense? So in terms of showing the way, it's showing a game. Now, of course, the other thing I'll say is that it's a little bit like radio astronomy. in radio astronomy, the astronomer is looking for that weak signal from the star against a lot of background noise from the Big Bang of the universe. The games on our planet, the game is a weak signal, and then we all have this incredible background noise, the news, the television, social media, which is really social noise. So I'm saying to you, if you're going to be a leader, show the way, create a game, and make sure it's clearly communicated. So that's my answer to that first question. Why is leadership important?
Amazing. And I'm so happy that you have given such a simple answer to such a big question, because that's a very vast and an open question. But the wonderfully you have explained it, I'm really amazed. So I just would take that cue from your answer, which you said that it's an art how you really put it. Every time it's not necessary it's going to be win-lose or a win-win, but how I think how engaging the game and how exciting the game is, that's what a leader has to do. So how exactly do you think the leadership is important in aspects of the modern life, even in places where exactly we can hardly see the leadership is visible? Maybe it can be in our family, it could be in our society, and even at places where even people hardly could think of a leader, but a leader can really do the wonder, that he can be the game changer. So how do you see that leadership is important?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at our history, something like 2.5 million years, our ancestors were what they called hunters and gatherers. So they would wander across the surface of the planet, hunting and gathering. So there was always a leader, maybe the elders of the tribe, because they quickly learned if you're going to survive as a hunter and gatherer, you need to work together. So leadership was important. Then about whatever it was, 9,000 years ago, they discovered farming in the Euphrates, Tigris area, rivers, and everybody settled down and started building houses, and people made pots. So again, you have the beginnings of a community, and the leaders then have to arrange the game, where the roads go, who's going to make pots, how the transport works. And of course, once the Industrial Revolution arrived in about 1760, our games have got very complicated. So I would suggest we now need leaders in government, because the government's job is to provide the infrastructure around our game of business and our game of farming. We need leadership in every business, whatever they're doing, a structure of the game. We all live in communities. Somebody has to organize the community. So again, there's leaders. How are we going to have our community? Come down to teams, come down to family. Is it important, if you have a family, to show some sort of leadership for your kids? And then you've got this gift of life. It's up to you. Do you have a responsibility to, for want of a better term, lead your life? Find out what you want to do. And it may be other people agree and maybe they don't. It's your life. So can you see that leadership sort of cascades down as important at every level of the games on this planet?
Absolutely. So nicely put together. So I just want to know, like, as you said, that leadership is something which has to evolve, and someone who can really pick up the thing. So many times we always find that the leader is someone like a superhero who always comes for a rescue. But sometimes we realize that superhero lies within us. So it's not necessary that every time we have to wear the cape of a superhero to exercise the leadership. So what tools, or what exactly are the power tools or the tools or the skills required to become an effective leader? Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good question, because you're right. I mean, hopefully we all find ourselves working with and for really good leaders. But, what is it? Many are called, few are chosen, or whatever. So there are some tools. So let me try and explain. What I have found working with groups, government and business all over the world, if you go, all right, where are we going? you get all sorts of ideas. So the first principle I've found over those 50 years of adult life, 30 working as a trainer mentor, is it's a lot easier to go ask everybody to go out into the future, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 25 years, and create what's called a vision. What does success look like on the horizon? And because the picture's always worth 1,000 words, you can remember my face because it's a picture, it's harder to remember my name. I found it best individually or as a team to create a picture of success. So I would suggest the first key is let's get that success vision. We're on top of Mount Everest. We've created the first electric car. We have created a nation where everybody is given the ability to achieve his or her best results. What does that look like? Now, this is important. The next question, even if you've got a success horizon, which is the start of the game, everybody going, oh, this is exciting, this is exciting. The kiss of death is to go, okay, what do we do next? Well, George thinks we should go left. Samantha thinks we should go right. So what I found is you go out into the future to the vision and you create what I call the strategic pegs. What products are we producing? What services? What teams do we need? Who are our customers, the markets, the sectors? What culture do we want to create to play our game? What support systems? So there'll be 5, 7, maybe 9 parts of our vision, like pegs on the far bank of what I call this river. And then here's the point. Rather than try and plan forward, it's a lot easier to plan back. And you just keep okay, we have 10 A-grade teams. Then the question is, what happened just before that? What happened just before that? So you plan back graphically on the wall. And so let's say you've got 10 strategies to achieve your vision. You end up with 10 sets of what I call rope bridges, strategies, coming back. And then, of course, once you've done that, you can enact them forward. So they're the first 2 keys, graphical vision and graphical plans. Now, another thing is if you're a manager, and we'll come on to management probably shortly, you have what's called positional power. So I've got the positional power. If you don't agree, that's the door, you're off the team. A leader only has personal power. So a leader shows the way and asks you to follow. So I'm suggesting one of the things you need to understand over time is what are the keys, the tools to build your personal power. Now, obviously, body fitness, sharpness of mind, emotions. So, there are components around that. And then in essence, you will have the ability to create the vision, create the plans, and attract an A-grade team. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I really agree with what you said. And from that, I understand that I really like that one you said, that the visual picture, the visual clue I get, and how wonderfully you strategize. And particularly when you say that, how exactly you are implementing all these things, whether you are just trying to use your positional power or your personal power as a leader, that is very important. The choice really makes a difference. So
yes.
My next question is just followed by that. Often we talk about, the management principles, getting into the, the management rules. But many a times I believe that maybe the self-proclaimed leaders who often say that we are the leaders, and there are leaders who eventually come up and they show themselves when there is a situation. So how exactly the management is helpful in this situation? And do you think that a conventional knowledge or someone who has no such conventional knowledge of management can really make a difference, and how leadership is and management goes hand in hand? If you can just give some.
Yes, I think that's a good question. I think my answer would be we need leadership and we need management. So if the job of the leader is to create the game, create the vision, create the strategies, and have the personal power to attract the A grade, then the manager's job, the word management comes from the Latin manus, the hand. So management is to handle, control, and direct with skill and authority. And here's the point. The manager has positional power, and their job is how are we going to play this game? Now, obviously, in the 21st century, positional power has less and less effect. It's still personal power. But I would suggest that because our 21st century is so dynamic, any job is to focus on customers. Almost every game is focused on customers. Whether you're in business or in government, you've got customers. And so what I suggest is the manager uses what I call a contribution agreement. And so everybody on the team has their personal contribution agreement. First question is, who are your customers? And then once you know who your customers are, whether they're internal or external to the business or the government, then the next question is, what are the criteria by which the customer's assessing your gold medal performance? And then those three questions for you and your manager is, are you able to deliver to gold medal standards? If you are, that's terrific. If not, we must give you skills to uplift your skills so you're able to. Mm-hmm. Do you have the chance to play this game to gold medal standards? Which means, do we have a culture that's empowering and win-win? We figured out trust, we figured out assertion, we figured out synergies. And in terms of chance to, not only the culture, do you have the systems to support your performance? Deming was a systems expert, and he said 97% of stuff-ups, that's a technical term, 97% of problems, the root cause is the system. But the problem is, if you think about your education, how many hours of systems training did you get at school or university? Now, I was lucky because I did process engineering. Most people aren't thinking about it. They go, well, actually, I never learned about systems. So the systems lurk there. We go, Samantha stuffed it up. It's usually the system. So the manager's gone, okay, you're able to, have you got the chance to, culture and strong systems? And then finally, do you want to? Are you motivated? So the manager has to make sure you're motivated, and you may be demotivated at work, or you may have got problems outside with your family or community. So those are the keys of management, how we're going to play the game and get each person and the teams on 16 cylinders, body, mind, emotion, spirit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I just really get fascinated the way you answered this, and I have another question, just could be which has
Sure.
triggered by the way you answered. How do you
Sure.
see, like, certain managers may have that positional power, and they may have all the abilities to do what exactly could be a transactional leadership, but at times I believe that why some managers cannot always become the leaders. And perhaps here I would like to request you if you can indicate that what are the key focal points for both a leader and a manager, and how exactly you can think that how a manager can become a leader, and why sometimes a manager cannot be a leader while performing for a team or an organization.
Yeah, look, that comes up in all the workshops. It's a very fundamental question. The way I'd answer it, that I think there are three keys to life, what we call be, do, have. So if you want to have results in life, you have to be able to do what's required to get those results, and you have to be the person capable of doing what's required to have the results. Now, if you, maybe after you watch this podcast, if you write down all the people who you think were impressive leaders, you know, from history down to present time, I get people to do this in the workshop, and then, you know, all over the world, you know, whether it's the Prophet Muhammad or Winston Churchill or you know, whoever it was, what are the qualities of those people, that Joan of Arc, you know, that made them powerful leaders? Then you write down another list of people who've impressed you as managers. What are the qualities of the really good managers? And what I've found, I don't want to preempt what you find, is that often the qualities of the leaders are B qualities, and the qualities of the good managers are do qualities. So I think that would be my answer, that if the leaders got wonderful B qualities, they radiate enthusiasm, they may not be very good at doing the management. There may be managers who are very good at doing, but they actually don't radiate those B qualities. So can you see it's B and do? Leaders is B, managers is do, and then we all have it. Some people can cross the bridge, other people can't.
Amazing. That's so nicely said. And I'm sure the audience who are listening, they have definitely taken down this point and they're going to do this. And we are really excited that when we would get an opportunity to be a part of our workshop, and then we can find you in Positive Mental Attitude organizing a virtual workshop for people across the world. Here in Middle East, a lot of people would be fascinated to join your workshop. And we are coming to the end of this wonderful session. But then again, before we wrap up, we have some final question. And at the same time, I want to tell those who are watching this podcast that David Powell is a celebrated author. So if you want to know more about him, you have to read his book, Life Skill Journey. So, sir, if you can just tell a little bit about this wonderful creation of yours and how exactly our audience can get more information on that. And if you could also share the secret gift, which you promised at the beginning of the session.
Yes. When I started my business in '93, I didn't know the phone was going to go from all over the world. And I found myself on all 5 continents, as you said. And people whose English was their second language, they go, David, could you please slow down? And in the end, people go, could you please write a book? Because there's so much of value here. So it took a long time. I wrote this book, Life Journey Skills. What you didn't say is actually I'm an internationally acclaimed author, because when I wrote it, I was in Australia. My mother, who's passed now, she was in England, and she thought the book was terrific. So it's internationally acclaimed, you see. But anyway, the point of the story is we've got it on electronically. So my colleague Imelda will organize with you so that we can, I don't know how they do it, but you'll be able to download the book. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I suggest you work through each chapter. And as I said when we started talking,
amazing.
It's how you personally.
Yeah, so amazing. So you just give the link down in the podcast. So while people are listening to this podcast, they can find the link so that they can click on that and they can get the wonderful nuggets of this wonderful creation of Life Skill Journey, and they can get more about the different tips and tricks which help them to enhance their life and get those secret nuggets. So my final question for you today, Dr. David Powell. So we just want to know that what the listeners can take away from this session, what resources are available for them to develop their leadership skills in their life. What exactly would be your final takeaways for our audience today?
Yeah. So I would say everybody's looking for a game. So if you're going to lead, create the game, create the vision, create the strategic plans, create the structure of the culture and the systems, and work on your B qualities. We haven't got time to go into that. It's easier to do. You have to be the person that people want to play a game with. So I would say work on your skills, personal skills, understand skills for forming relationships with people, rapport, and then understand team skills. And yes, we got the book, we've got some videos that you could access. So there are lots of tools. That's your job.
Amazing. So I'm really honored with all your wonderful advices and insights which you have shared with our audience. And I'm so happy that this kind of journey has just begun. This is just the initiation of this wonderful journey of knowledge. And I'm sure we would request you once again to be a part of our podcast in the similar way, and we would be expecting your support in the coming times. With this, I would really complete our journey of podcast today, and we'll be back once again for one such interesting personality in our next upcoming podcast. So here, Dr. Das signing off. Stay home. I hope you'll be positive, you'll be blessed and recharged till the time we meet you again for